Now, unless you've been living under a rock for like the last 4-ish years, then you've probably heard of a certain video game called Genshin Impact. And this game has really just kind of taken over the entire world culturally, if you think about it in a weird type of way, or at least it stood out a lot more to me. I remember going to conventions after it was safe enough to go back to these conventions, and I swear, the artist alley, the cosplayers, everything just was all Genshin Impact. You couldn't escape Genshin no matter where you went. And this is what really made Genshin Impact stand out to me. I mean, obviously the con stuff, you kind of expect that. That's the audience, so that kind of makes sense. But I started to notice that people just in my daily life, they all knew what Genshin Impact was. And this thing started to explode and explode and explode more so, where people who I didn't think would know about this type of thing were in on it, just showing how big of a cultural phenomenon Genshin Impact really was. And that got me thinking, why not make a video exploring maybe how Genshin Impact was able to grow to that size? What were some of the factors that contributed to make it this giant beast that it is that we know today? Okay, but let's slow down a second. What is Genshin Impact? Well, we need to go over some of the basics first, just to make sure that everyone is caught up here. Genshin Impact is an action-adventure game that borrows heavily from Breath of the Wild, using a lot of the same elements, specifically, obviously, the climbing mechanics and the gliding mechanics. A lot of that stamina stuff was pulled right out of it, and quite frankly, I think that Genshin Impact probably is the best game outside of the Zelda franchise to build that system in and have it work. It uses a very heavily anime-inspired aesthetic. I mean, I remember seeing these trailers before it even went out there, where basically it was like the free-to-play anime version of Breath of the Wild. And of course, it's a gacha game. That's the most important thing here, actually, that I should mention, is this is a free-to-play gacha game. They gotta make money somehow, and the whole idea being that if you want to get certain characters and certain weapons to round out your party to go explore these worlds and do all these quests, well, you gotta roll for them, as in doing the whole loot box thing, and you've got chances of getting different characters, which is really how they rope people into their ecosystem. Basic gacha game stuff, this is what you expect from pretty much every single mobile gacha game that exists. But I think the most important feature of Genshin Impact that kind of gets overlooked every now and then is it's really accessible and really easy to get into. This game launched not only on PC, but also PlayStation 4 and mobile all at the same time. And all of them were pretty much working builds. You could go on and comfortably play on any single platform, and you'd have more or less the same experience. I guess difference in computing power and control and stuff, but you could play just as well on your phone if you've got a good enough phone as you could on your PlayStation 4 compared to your $1,000 PC. It was all really cool. And what really stood out to me when I first started to dip into this game was the fact that your save continued across all of your different platforms. Essentially, I could also take it on the go. If I was just taking transit or something like that, I could play in the car. And then when I come back, just sign onto my PC and pick up exactly where I left off, which is honestly something that I don't see a lot of games kind of incorporating in, but it just allowed for Genshin Impact to just be so accessible in any form that you want to play it on. It was great. And the other thing to really stress here is that it is free to play at its base. I touched on it earlier, there are gacha hooks, but once again, the free-to-play elements of the game make it extremely appealing for a lot of people, just your basic gamer, to kind of dip in and be like, wow, this is kind of a cool game that I don't have to pay for. I'm in, let me invest my time into it, and then that's kind of when they try and hook you in to spend money. But the free-to-play aspect is very appealing for a lot of people to get into. And then the other point as well is that the co-op system that I had mentioned earlier, which was great because you could just play with friends on wherever you want, well, it's also cross-platform, which tends to be a little bit more difficult for some games rather than other games, but it all just kind of works out really nicely. For example, if I'm playing on PC, I can play with my mobile friend who's just in the room over there, and then my other friend who's on the PlayStation 4 just in my living room or something like that. And we can all play together with relative ease. It's not difficult to make those systems communicate. And so that way, it encourages people to encourage their friends to then continue playing, and then suddenly everyone's going in and playing Genshin Impact. And so with just how accessible and easy to play this game was, we also have to talk about the timing of the release of Genshin Impact. This game came out on September 28th, 2020, in the middle of the COVID-19 lockdown. So naturally, you had a lot of people who were just kind of stuck at home with nothing really to do, and so a lot of people just started to navigate towards video games. And I know what you're thinking, oh, you're a gamer probably if you're watching this video, that's gonna be my guess. That tends to be my demographic on YouTube. There are so many other great games that have come out during the year, like The Last of Us Part 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, so many banger titles in 2020. So why Genshin Impact? Why did this one stand out? Well, for all of the accessibility reasons that I listed above. hey, it's free to play, I don't have to pay any money at first to play this game, that's awesome. Oh my god, I don't own a gamer PC or a PlayStation, well, I can now play this on my phone. Genshin Impact was honestly such a good deal for a lot of these more casual gamers who were starting to just dip their toes into gaming. And then even too, speaking of the pandemic, a lot of people were just locked down at home, suddenly not commuting as much, you know, they were moving back home with their parents or just moving farther away to save money and things like that because you couldn't really do anything anyways, which meant that a lot more people had disposable income. So the gacha portion of the game, well, they started investing more money into it, making them go deeper into it, but also allowing miHoYo to then have more money to make more content for the game, to make it even more appealing to more people. miHoYo continue to add new story chapters to the game. They're continuing to add it even to this day. And then with that, so many new characters being launched and so many more just like content packages are just being thrown into Genshin, which definitely makes it a very appealing package for people to just like play, understanding that they're getting even more free content without even having to spend a dime. It was kind of crazy because it felt like all the perfect storm of factors with this super accessible game with gacha hooks coming out, you know, the pandemic, everyone's stuck at home, free time, free money, all of that type of stuff. And it just worked out perfectly that Genshin Impact was at the epicenter to just kind of grow into this massive cultural phenomenon. Like I remember, there was literally a moment where after lockdown had kind of subsided, I was hanging out with some friends and we were just like at a party. And then I realized that two of my friends play Genshin Impact. And so I was like, oh snap, I should like talk to them about this. Like, hey, did you know this person plays Genshin? Then this person plays Genshin. And then they started comparing like their mains and their party builds and all that type of stuff, a lot more in depth than I was at that point. And then they ended up becoming friends without me, that's cool, over just Genshin Impact. And these are two people who did not know each other beforehand. It was bizarre to me how often it was coming up, despite the fact that it was an anime gacha game that existed on your phone. That simply wouldn't have existed back before the pandemic happened. And so we see Genshin Impact just have that massive impact on the cultural world, to be honest with you. Like outside of just the niche markets that you would expect, so many more people were just aware of the franchise just because of this perfect storm, like I said. And it's kind of funny just seeing how it exploded so quickly because there were like a lot of random collaborations that they did Genshin Impact with like KFC, Cadillac. There was like Ganyu phones that only shipped in Korea for a little while. My favorite one, they made a collaboration with the French Alps where you could like go up there and see Genshin Impact stuff there because I guess why not? You know, I'm not questioning it, but that was just like a what the heck is going on here. It was popular enough that miHoYo, the developers for Genshin Impact, originally based in China, then decided to rebrand themselves as HoYoverse, specifically so that they could reach a more worldwide audience, opening up headquarters in Montreal, Los Angeles, Singapore, Tokyo, Seoul, and other places just around the world to try and just broaden their reach throughout it because they had enough money and they had enough reach just with Genshin Impact to do so. And next, HoYoverse would go on to make Honkai Star Rail, which if you look at it, it's basically Genshin Impact in space and with turn-based combat. And now they're working on Zenless Zone Zero, which departs a little bit from this whole Genshin gacha background, but it still looks like a really good game to kind of look at. And so once again, it really is hard to quantify how big of an impact Genshin Impact has had on the entire world. The perfect combination of factors just existed to make it, to propel it in front of the zeitgeist and everyone in the world would become aware of this thing. That being that it was an incredibly good accessible game. Pandemic happened, and so a lot more people had free time on their hands. And of course, there's gacha mechanics in it, so naturally there are some hooks in there to make people addicted and continue to play moving forwards into the future. But it genuinely did set the new bar for what a quality mobile game could be. And like I said, you see so many other games trying to chase that exact same bar that Genshin was kind of able to set, and not a lot of people have been even able to get anywhere close. But alrighty, that does it for this video. I hope that was kind of an interesting deep dive at some of the factors that propelled Genshin Impact to be the cultural phenomenon that it is today. Let me know if you played Genshin Impact. I'm gonna guess that you did because literally everybody and their mother played Genshin Impact. Who your main was. Mine was Ganyu back in the day. I remember I did the hard pity to get to 90. I spent money on it too, but I was so far deep into the rabbit hole. But you know what? God damn it, I got Ganyu, and then I burned out really hard because I grinded so hard to that one character. Why am I the way that I am? But okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe if you did. That helps the channel a lot. And you know what? We'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye everybody.